Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're having a good one today. I'm Nick, and today I'm going to get into a Halloween ranking using Tier Maker. Now, this is not going to be like an official ranking. It is going to be my ranking as of now, but next year, 2022, I will be reviewing each movie individually leading up to Halloween ends, and then I'll put out an official ranking. But since I'm not doing that this year, I figured I would give you guys a tier ranking instead. I've just watched 10 out of 12 of these films. Two of them I've watched a couple months back. That'd be H2O and Resurrection. And I didn't feel the need. I had to rewatch them again. So that was all good. My rankings did change a bit this time around after rewatching all of them. And we have Halloween Kills in here as well. So yeah, 12 films. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get into this. I'll just explain my tier rankings. At the very top, the best is near perfect or perfect, one or the other. Number two, we got great. Then under that, we got good. Then we got okay. Then mixed, like a mixed bag. Bad but entertaining. And at the very end, it's complete garbage. It's a total waste of a film. So let's do this from worst to best, shall we? Now, the worst movie for me out of all of these happens to be Resurrection. And Resurrection is going to go in bad but entertaining. Tricked you there, eh? I don't think it's complete garbage. I think there's a lot of ideas in here that are complete garbage, like the whole Busta Rhymes doing kung fu on Myers and treating him like shit, like like poking him in the forehead and telling him to get back in the other room, and just belittling him. Where Myers shouldn't be taking that stuff. He would have killed him so quick, but that just doesn't happen. It was just bad writing, and it just overall doesn't feel like a Halloween movie. They're making a reality TV show in the Myers house, which is like really odd. This an odd choice for a sequel, and yeah, just not a great film, but it is entertaining. It's like watchable. I can still watch this movie. I'm not like wanting to turn it off when I put it on or stopping it at any point. I can get through this movie fairly easy. Um, the intro though was terrible. How they undid everything that H2O did. It makes H2O's ending less strong now if you watch them back to back, which is a shame. Uh, I do like some of the atmosphere in that when we're in the house and some of the shots we get with the camera angles and like the handheld camera stuff. I do enjoy some of that. Myers looks okay in this, and only other thing I have to add is the characters are terrible, especially the main lead. She's one of the worst final girls ever. She's terrible. The like this is for him and this is for him. Like cringe-worthy dialogue, and the girl can't even scream. And that's all I got for Halloween Resurrection. It's bad but entertaining, or you can even call it dangertaining, because it's dangertainment. That's enough of that. Next up, at number 11, I would have Halloween 5. Now, Halloween 5, bad but entertaining or mixed, it kind of falls in between those two, but I don't think it was as bad as Resurrection, so I'll put it under mixed. This film is an odd sequel. I don't like how they tried to humanize Myers, kind of like how Rob Zombie did the same thing, but like we don't need to see Myers crying. Like we have a whole shot where he takes off his mask in this film, and Daniel Harris is like, "Uncle?" Jamie. And yeah, he like cries a tear and then puts the mask back on and just goes ahead and kills her again. I just feel like too much of this movie was a rehash of part four. It was just Myers after his niece again. It's like we've seen this all already, but done better. The kills aren't real great. But one thing I will give this, it still keeps the atmosphere and the tone of the older Halloween movies. It's still very much an 80s sequel, which I do appreciate. And there is a really cool scene with Jamie in a laundry chute, I think it is, or event at the very end, and Myers is stabbing it, and that is the best scene in the whole movie. But then you go ahead and end it with Myers getting put down by Loomis beating him with a piece of wood and then throwing a net on him. Just end him. Like, come on. Worst way to take out Myers. And then you go ahead and put him in jail. Like, that is one of the worst shots in the entire franchise when you see Myers in jail with his mask. It's like as if they would even let him keep his mask for one thing. You could have had him just facing like the other direction without his mask and it would have been better. But that movie is such a mess, and there is a few redeemable qualities. I don't think that Tina's as bad as people say, even though she's a huge downgrade from Rachel, which gets killed off in a very, very lame way, I'll say. And yeah, the cops. Come on, when the cops are playing their little theme music when they're walking up the first time you see the cops, it's like, it's like carnival music. It's like, what the hell is going on with this film? Another point before I move on that I want to get out there is when Myers is chauffeuring around Tina in the car. It's like, okay, I get it. He drives, yes. But he doesn't just drive people around. Like, even though that scene is full of tension, I feel like he would have slammed the brakes and made her go through the windshield or something. Like, try to kill her, like, instead of just obeying her. That's another rule that Resurrection got wrong when no one's supposed to treat Myers like a bitch. And that kind of happens in this film at times. And yeah, there's some good. Loomis is crazy as hell, uh, which is entertaining. But having a mute Jamie for most of the film and all these other decisions they made, it's just, it really lacks in comparison from part 4. Now let's move on to number 10. And at number 10 for me, surprisingly for me, is Halloween 2. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I'm going to place this ahead. This was the bottom of the barrel for me before this recent rewatch. I would have put it at complete garbage if I would have did this tier ranking without rewatching it. Because I've only seen it the one time, like around when it came out, and I hated it. I hated the direction they took. I thought the movie was unpleasant, even in a horror direction. Like, I didn't get behind any of the characters or any of the decisions they made. Myers is just a walking, not talking. Well, if you watch the directorial cut, the director's cut or whatever, he does talk at the end, but he's just a walking hobo in this, and it's like, what? It doesn't even feel like Myers. And rewatching it this time, I came to terms with it a little more because I knew what to expect this time. And I do like all the trauma in this film and how they deal with that. That is pretty realistic, actually. And I actually prefer most of the characters in this than in Rob Zombie's first movie. There's not as much white trash dialogue and all that stuff. So there is some good here. And Myers is brutal as hell. The most brutal Myers you'll ever see, in my opinion. Tyler Mane does a great job, and he's huge. But my problem is all the ghost stuff, the white horse stuff, the mom stuff, all that stuff that he shoehorned in this film that wasn't in part 1 doesn't work for me at all. And even going in knowing that was in this film this time, and I try to be optimistic about it, it just doesn't work for me. I do not like it. So this is a very middle of the road movie for me. And this is a good segue to talk about part 1 because that's next up at number 9. But I would put it in okay. While I do really hate most of the characters in this film, aside from Danielle Harris's Annie, I think she's an upgrade from Annie in the original. Everybody else is sleazy, annoying, or has that white trash dialogue. And it's just like, come on, Zombie, you can direct, but you can't write people's dialogues anyway. And yeah, Myers is brutal again in this. We get a whole backstory that we never got in the other movies, explaining why he's the way he is, and they try to make you sympathize with him, which I don't think was the best idea. I respect it though. I like that Zombie took a whole different approach to the Myers character. But watching this, you're just like, everybody around him is just as much of an a-hole as him, especially his family. It's like, and it just brings me out of the movie. I have nobody that I really enjoy watching in this film, aside from maybe Danny Trejo's character when they're in the asylum, and Annie, Daniel Harris's character. They're the only two I actually kind of enjoy. But the story is solid for what he was going for. And the second half plays a lot more like the OG film, even though it's much more brutal and violent and has the darker tone all around it. But it's still a fairly okay movie. Now, this may be a surprise. It would be a surprise to me if I seen this as a kid. Not seen the movie, but seen this ranking. Next up is H2O. This is going to go in okay as well. This was my first Halloween movie I've ever watched back in the 90s when it came out. I knew of Halloween, but I haven't just never got around to watching them, or they just never played on TV when I grew up. It was always Freddy and Jason on the TV for cable. But H2O, seen it, I was like, this is a pretty awesome movie, especially me being a huge fan of the original Scream. And this is kind of has the same atmosphere in that as Scream. And yeah, I thought it was a kick ass movie, but nowadays I see all the flaws. And the biggest flaw being Myers himself. The mask looks terrible, his movements are terrible. We don't get the great score when he's around or anything. And it's such a bummer because they had such potential with this, but it kind of falls flat for me nowadays, which is really weird because, like I said, as a kid, I loved it. This would be my number one easily. But every year and every time I watch it, it seems to go down a peg every single time. And it's unfortunate because I think Laurie has a better, like, she deals with her trauma from the past better in this film, and it's more believable than in Halloween 2018, which is a little over the top. And Josh Hartnett is great in this, her son, and all the surrounding cast do a great job. And that ending is awesome when she freaking cuts off Myers' head. Myers, not an ambulance driver, until Resurrection shows up. And you're like, oh my god. And Resurrection, unfortunately, dampers H2O a tiny bit as well because even though you know it was supposed to be Myers at the time, now that we've seen Resurrection, we know it's an ambulance driver, it's just like, I can't help but think that when I rewatch it now. And I'm like, this is so stupid and terrible. And it's unfortunate because it's not H2O's fault, but H2O has other problems. And for me, it's with your Myers. And when you screw up Myers in your Halloween film, that's a big flaw to me. So that's why it's only in the okay section right now. Next up, we have. Let me check just to make sure. Okay. Next up, we got the brand new Halloween Kills at number 7, I believe. Yes, number 7. And this is also going to go in the okay, guys. To me, this was kind of disappointing, even though I'd give it a passing grade of like a 6.5 out of 10. I watched it twice now, but it's still somewhat of a letdown. But it's not with Myers. Myers is almost perfect in this film. James Jude Courtney portrayed him amazingly. He's brutal, almost as brutal as Tyler Mane. He stacks up the most bodies. I mean, he has the biggest kill count out of any movie in the Halloween franchise. And Myers is great. It's just all the rest of the cast. I have flaws with I have not flaws. I have problems with most of them. The two that I do like, I do think Allison was great in this, and I do think like they made Cameron a better character, and Lonnie was awesome. Like I didn't expect anything from Lonnie, and he was my favorite returning character from like the OG. The rest of them either underutilized or brought in just to get killed with no advancement in the story or plot. And it's just so unfortunate because they had such a great cast to work with, and it's just the way they wrote them and their dialogue. Oh, evil dies tonight. You must hear that. I counted 22 times the last time I've watched it, but it's hard to keep track with all the chanting and that. But yeah, I'm kind of sick of talking about this movie, but I'll just wrap this up by saying I think they should have made Karen more of a badass than what she was. She should have been in this movie way more, her and Allison. I think Laurie should have been killed off. Wasted opportunity there. She just sits in the hospital bed being annoying most of this movie. And there's really no story to it. It's really Myers going from point A to point B, and that's it. End of movie. It's really a filler in this trilogy, and I really hope that really ends it strong, because if it doesn't, 2018 is going to be the strongest film in this trilogy for sure. Okay, coming in at number 6, we got Halloween 3. Now this, I'm going to still put this under okay, even though this one's kind of, it's starting to get into the good territory right here. It's like riding that line. Uh, this is obviously the one that has nothing to do with Myers. It was meant to be an anthology series at first. Everybody hated it. They went back to Myers. First time I watched it, I didn't think it was that good either. This is one that grows on you. The more you watch, every time you watch it, you're like, okay, you appreciate it just a tiny bit more. The score's great in it. That doesn't get talked about enough. The little jingle that's in it, 8 more days till Halloween, is annoying as hell, but it does its job. It was meant to be like that, especially when it's playing at the end. It'll get stuck in your head for days. And also, part 3 has a great cast. We got Tom Atkins in the lead role, and he's the man. I'm pretty sure he's banged every woman in this film. Not in real life, I mean like in the story. It seems like it. Every woman wants to get with him, or he's a ladies' man, okay? And he's awesome in this film. Badass too. And just the whole thought of Connell Cochran head over this company that made these masks to kill all these children on Halloween is sick and awesome and twisted. The problems I have with this film are I don't think it was a good choice to make the. It's not that it was a bad choice. It's just the execution of making the girl a robot at the end. How they like switched her out. I was like, that wasn't executed very well, and I think there could have been more to the whole finale. Like I do like how the way it ends with him on the phone being like, "Turn off the commercial" or whatever. But before that, like when they're in the factory, I think it should have been a bigger showdown, or instead of just dropping all of the Shamrock logos or whatever that have the friggin' stone embedded in it down, and it just screwing up all their robot soldiers and robot guys working there. That I'm kind of mixed on, but it is a solid movie, and I can see this moving up in the future even higher in my ranking. Alright, guys, so coming in at number 5, we got Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. And I'm putting this in the good category. Some of you are probably looking at me like I'm crazy right now, but this is another one that grew on me. And that's the theatrical version, of course. Producer's cut, literally, would be bad but entertaining or complete garbage because I do not like it at all. They dwell way too much on Michael, like, raping maybe some, like, not Daniel Hare's, Jamie, to have the baby and all being part of the cult thing. I don't like, they dwell on that way too much. The theatrical cut may be a little more messy story-wise, but the kills are awesome. We got Brutal Myers in this one too. He's a little chunky, but he's menacing as well. Great colors, great score. Has like a really different, not heavy metal, but there's like this weird vibe attached to the score on this one, which I really love. And yeah, the characters are pretty good. Paul Rudd's a little dorky in this, but aside from that, I just love the atmosphere and just the way this one plays out. Again, the theatrical version though, the producer's cut with ending it with like the rocks around Michael and that, like, get the hell out of here. We don't want to see that. Next up, we got at number 4, Halloween 2018, and this is also going in the good category. This is another one I was a bit disappointed after watching it for the first time when it came out because it was so hyped up. But in the end, it was a fairly solid sequel that attaches itself to the original. I think Laurie's a little over the top though. In this, she could have been toned down a bit, and they do repeat a lot of beats from H2O, like as if we didn't see this before. Laurie being in trauma. But I feel like for a movie that says none of the sequels exist, they can't stop referencing them like every 2 seconds. Halloween Kills had this problem too, where it's like, okay, we get it, and it's fan service, but you don't have to do it every scene. And I know some people like those Easter eggs and that, but they're not focusing enough on their actual movie themselves. They're dwelling on all the others too much. We get a kick-ass Michael in this one. We get all our surrounding cast is fairly good. I know a lot of people complain about the comedy in this and in H Kills. Don't bother me at all, aside from the peanut butter on the penis joke. Take that out. The comedy doesn't bother me in any of these films. And all in all, it was just a great attachment to the original, and I think it would have worked well with just this film. You didn't have to make a trilogy. And after H Kills, I'm a little worried at how this whole trilogy is going to turn out. It's really a quadrilogy because you have to add in the original in there as well. But yeah, it's a pretty good sequel for this franchise, especially. This is not my franchise, so I'm a Friday guy. Next up at number 3, we got Halloween 4. And I'm putting that in the good category as well. I know some people gush over this movie like crazy. Me, I found it was fairly, I don't know, fairly weak starting to the movie, since the ending of H2, Myers is on fire, Loomis, all this shit. And it's like, how are you going to continue this? And of course, they did it like they do any horror movie. We'll just bring them back and we'll try to explain it later. But no, this is more action packed than being full of atmosphere and that, like the older films, which keeps the pacing going fairly well. We got one of our main leads, Jamie, which is supposed to be Laurie's niece, played by Danielle Harris. She nails the role, especially for a child actor. She does a great job. Myers is okay in this film. I hate the way he looks, though. One of his worst looks, with his friggin' shoulder pads, the dumb mask, one of the worst masks in the series, along with H2O at times. But everything else is fairly good. And the last act is pretty amazing, especially the way it ends with the twist with Jamie's character. And I really wish 5 would have continued that, but they go back to doing the exact same shit that 4 did. Okay, next up at number 2, we got Halloween 2, and this is going in. This is one that's in between great and good for me, but it's still going in the good category. A great follow-up to the first movie. It continues right where they left off the same night, and this really works well if you watch them back to back. All the returning characters are great, like Loomis, Laurie, all them. The pacing is a little slow in this one, especially once we get to the hospital. And the hospital is kind of empty for being a hospital. It would have been cool to have more people in there, nurses and that, more kills. The kills, though, are great. This takes much more of the Friday the 13th approach, and I think that's why I gravitate towards this film a little bit more. Especially the sauna kill. You gotta love that kill with the skin melting off and that. And we get a great ending to this where it's like they're putting an end to Michael for good, so we thought. With the 2 shots to the eyes and then kept going up in flames, which should have really killed Loomis. He was in the room. Myers makes it out of the room on fire and then falls down to his death. So we thought. Should have ended that way. It would have made a perfect ending, and then they could have started their anthology. But no, nobody wanted that anthology. We wanted Myers back. And I don't blame them. I mean, how many times have I wanted Jason back? But yeah, this is a great sequel. To me, the best sequel in the franchise. Lastly, I should say, at number 1, we got none other than the original. And this one's going in near perfect. This is a near perfect film. Probably give it like a 9.5 out of 10. Maybe a 10, I'm not sure. But it is great. It oozes with atmosphere. It does so much with its low budget. John Carpenter really did everything to perfection. My only gripe would be the Annie character. She is pretty unlikable to me. I just don't like her personality or anything. And Linda does say totally about 10 or 15 times too many. But everybody else is excellent. The score is so iconic and memorable and great. Myers is badass. He's not really gory or violent. Like, he's violent, but you don't see a lot of like kill effects. But we don't need it. That's not what this was going for. He's just the boogeyman, and it makes him more mysterious, right? And just the fact that we don't know if he's man or supernatural, it kind of plays with your mind in this one, to the point at the end where you're like, okay, we're guessing he's supernatural, but you never really know. And leaving that mystery there is what really works in this film. And yeah, I could gush over this movie all day, even though I'm not a Halloween guy. But I have to say, this is one of the most perfect Halloween films to watch around this time of year. And it comes in easily at number one for me. So there you have it, guys. That's my tier ranking of the Halloween franchise with kills. Um, like I said, I'm a Friday the 13th type of guy. I even prefer A Nightmare on Elm Street over Halloween. Out of the big three, Halloween is my least favorite, but I still enjoy the hell out of it. I mean, I'm a horror fan, so I still watch these over and over and over again, even the bad ones like Resurrection and 5. But all in all, this is as a whole, it's a fairly good franchise, even though it does dip pretty low at times. And there's even a few that I like Part 6, that a lot of people don't. So I understand where some people have the hate for that one, but I just love it. And yeah, this is a great franchise, and I'm excited to see where they're going with ends. I hope they don't screw it up. Hopefully, they know what they're doing. So that's all I got for you guys today. You can drop down below any other tier rankings you'd like me to do. I really enjoy doing these. They're really fun to put together. Until next time, thanks for watching.